everyone, Tyler Piperman here with Phil DiMartino. This is the 5 Tool Productions video podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this time. We are talking about Social Media Examiner and Facebook video specifically. So in case you're wondering, actually Phil, I'll let you kind of introduce it because you found the articles or the social media post, sent it over to me, and we started kind of laughing and joking about it while we were sick in a hotel room. So that's how the conversation happened.
Yeah, we were at NAB New York, and we got this article. I actually got an email from Social Media Examiner, I believe, that basically said, I think the title of the email, the subject line of the email, I should say, was, "Is Facebook video dead?" Mm-hmm. And they wrote an email about how their engagement was down. They wanted to kill some of their programming on Facebook.
They have 3 hour-long shows that they were specifically cutting.
Right, and they were like, we're going to kill some of our programming on Facebook. And then their call to action was, head over to Facebook to watch our video announcement about why we're doing this. Yeah. So immediately my first thought was kind of like, the basic rule in journalism is if there's a question in the headline, the answer is no, right? And the question is Facebook video dead? Well, no.
Clearly, because you're bringing people to talk about it.
Because you're sending people there directly to engage on it.
This is, at this point, probably a week and a half ago that this actually came about. And since that's happened, they've also published several more videos about this specific topic as well.
Right.
All of them on this.
So they asked a very, and I understand this was basically like a PR push, right? Which was smart, and it worked.
Of course it is.
But the basic question was obviously phrased in a way that was supposed to be like very broad and direct, like, is Facebook video dead? No. Specific types of Facebook video are going to work better for certain brands than they are for other brands, and specific types are going to work better for everyone than they are for other people. We've talked about it a lot. Like, organic reach is way down.
There's zero arguing the fact that organic reach is down.
Right.
I mean, it's getting crushed all over the board.
And, the headlines came out about Facebook inflating numbers of views on videos. These things are all true. It doesn't change the fact that there's still a market for video content on Facebook, and there's still a huge audience on Facebook that is consuming video. It goes back to like everything we've talked about being aware of your audience, being smart, being thoughtful, and trying to produce stuff for the audience and the channel that they're on. Right? If you're trying to produce video for Facebook, you need to be thoughtful about what that means for people who are on Facebook scrolling through. If you're trying to produce video for YouTube, you need to think about what that means. It's true for any channel that you want to do.
If you're doing Vimeo, if you're doing Twitch, whatever it is, you need to think of who that audience is, the end user is, and what are they doing. And one of the points that they brought up on there is saying that Facebook is like a highway and every piece is just a billboard. You just drive right past everything now. So the need for long form video is totally out the door. And one of the questions that they just recently asked was, when was the last time you watched something more than 5 minutes on Facebook? And I thought to myself, I was like, yesterday I did. I watched the highlights from, I forget what game it was, but another game, I watched the whole 5 minute
on
Facebook specifically.
Okay.
So it just happened to come through and I watched it. So I have. There are other people that said, nope, I can't say that I have. So again, it goes back to knowing your audience. What are they consuming on a regular basis? And it might not be business content. I don't go on Facebook looking for business content.
Right.
So it might not be right for me there, but some people it is. So it really all depends. And one thing that's interesting with Social Media Examiner is that on some of their videos, they were getting incredible amount of engagement. They're getting views, 25,000 views, hundreds of shares, hundreds of comments, and obviously your likes, loves, and angry faces and things like that. But when you actually compare that to the size of their audience, it's a minuscule percentage of
so the return for them
audience.
isn't what necessarily they feel like it should be.
Exactly, and maybe they're better served going straight through email. And they have to do that. Like you said, they did a big push through email that drove people to Facebook, that got people to watch. So there's different ways that you can actually attempt it to drive people to those different platforms. I think they are right in saying someone logging on to Facebook and scrolling through and seeing it, they might not stop and watch it for 45 minutes, which their shows are like half-hour-long shows.
Right.
But if they are actively pushing it out and promoting it, that's another way of getting people to do it. So it kind of, to me, it always goes back to, watch what I do, not what I say. They might have said Facebook video is dead, but what they were doing was promoting it in a much different fashion too. So that's the other way to look at it.
Right, right. No, and I think that's a good point. I mean, ultimately, like you have all these insights at your disposal, and you can't help it if Facebook is going to inflate numbers, and that's a totally different discussion.
About
but you have
lie.
you have to pay attention, and there's things like comments. Like you can't fake comments, you can't fake likes, you can't fake shares.
We've seen people do it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't usually work out too well for them. But like you can't fake those things, so pay attention to those types of metrics. And like if you're posting video on Facebook that's getting a lot of people to like and comment and share, okay, then you're probably doing something right for that network. It doesn't also mean that if you're doing something well there that you shouldn't try to produce your content in different ways for other networks as well. We've written about this before. Like if you create one video now, it's going to be created and promoted differently across every single network that it's going to.
Of course.
Maybe your 45-minute video does live on YouTube, but maybe you still want to have a 1-minute section so that you're still engaging with your audience on Facebook and still catching them when they're on the highway, right? Like, that's why billboards still exist, by the way. Like,
you don't see billboards coming down. There's more going up. There's just different styles, right?
Right. Exactly. And you wouldn't put your entire sales pitch on a billboard, but you would put a quick, short value prop so that people might think to go look at your sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
And you got to kind of think of it in a similar fashion, right? Like you mentioned business content. Like maybe those things do better on LinkedIn, right? And natively from the CEO of your company posting on LinkedIn, like we've seen a lot of people have a lot of success actually with, business B2C focused content getting posted on LinkedIn and doing really well and getting good engagement. You still want to catch your customers and potential customers where they are, and people are still on Facebook. I think the biggest thing to remember is that like 2 years ago, it seemed like the entire internet was going to be Facebook, right?
Yeah, like they owned and dominated everything, and they were just going to gobble up the rest of the world.
Exactly. Right? It seemed like Facebook was taking over, and Facebook had said at that point, we envision a future in which all of Facebook is video.
Yep.
They made this huge push, and I mean, it caused a lot of companies to go all in on like the pivot to video.
Yep.
Ultimately, what you have to remember is that like Facebook and any network, there's no such thing as like a golden ticket. There's no such thing as a golden ticket in marketing. Like Facebook is a tool that you have at your disposal, and you should try to use it as effectively as possible. It doesn't mean you should ignore all the other channels at your disposal, and it doesn't mean that you should ignore analytics. You should use every channel you have at your disposal in the most thoughtful way you possibly can, including but not limited to Facebook.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think people get so dialed in and say, well, Facebook's done. What do we do now? What did you do before? Right. I mean, there's so many other channels out there. I mean, think about that. As a marketer, as a content marketer, your job is to get people to buy stuff, right? So how are you going to do that? Use and leverage the other channels and engage with them and kind of humanize your business. Just have the conversations. It might not be on Facebook.
Right.
It might be something that you've never heard. It might be Snapchat. We knock Snapchat all the time. But if your audience is there,
right.
Talk with people on Snapchat, right? Utilize the different platforms based on where your audience is and what they want to consume.
And I think it goes back to, I mentioned briefly like the pivot to video. I think you wrote a blog about this at one point, like people going crazy saying like, oh, the pivot to video is like a massive failure. The reaction to the idea of like video being more important is where the failure happened.
Yes.
It wasn't the idea that like video, people took it to the extreme. Right,
well, and that's what everybody does, right? They say the pivot to video means we're abandoning everything
written
else.
content.
It's like, wait a minute, that's not what we're saying.
You had media organizations who were
Fox,
right,
one of the biggest organizations, and I say that because of Ken Rosenthal, one of the baseball guys. He said, "Where am I going to write stuff now if your whole website is just video?
Right?
So what am I supposed to do?"
And it was there were tons of like big media organizations who had like a rich history and great engagement on their websites, not even on social, on their websites with written content, who said, we're going to move away from that, we're going to start doing video because Facebook says video is key. That's not a sound strategy, and that's not paying attention to your analytics, but it also doesn't mean that you shouldn't do any video. It means you should add it into your arsenal.
Well, exactly. It's
because some people prefer to consume content
putting
that way.
Eggs all in one basket.
Right.
Like you need to spread it out a little bit. No, obviously you don't want to spread yourself too thin because you can't keep up with all the different channels. But you can't just say, we're doing only blog posts and that's our only strategy and that's it. Well, that might not work.
Right.
I can't do all video and abandon, text because what about search? How's that really affecting you? It's like, just think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, just be thoughtful and pay attention to your data, and maybe talk to your consumers directly and talk to the people who come to your site and ask them.
Ask your consumers what they want and how they want, and look at those numbers.
And if you post on Facebook consistently and you get 0 engagement, probably try posting something different there. You know what I mean?
Change it up.
There's not a one-size-fits-all approach even on a single network. You have to see what works for you. So, Facebook on
Video on Facebook.
Video on Facebook is not dead, but you have to be thoughtful about it, just like you do with anything else on any other network.
Exactly. It's not the golden ticket where you say, "Oh, we made a video. We're on Facebook. I'm making $1 million tomorrow."
$1 million.
$1 million. We'll end it there with $1 million.
Sounds good.
Awesome stuff. You ending or am I ending?
I think you're ending it.
All right, I'm ending it. He's Phil. I'm Tyler. I forgot who actually introduced it, so I'm the one that's supposed to wrap it up. So yes, he's Phil. I'm Tyler. Thanks so much for tuning in.